James, we were talking a little bit before we hit record about this whole idea of how we can find different outlets to work on not only ourselves, but apply that journey to helping other people. Talk to me a little bit about how you got that going for yourself.
Well, it's kind of a long story for me. It goes back to when I was 4 years old, but essentially, it's just eternity clicked in my head when I went to midnight mass when I was four, and then I realized that if there's no end, there could be no middle. If there's no middle, there's only a perpetual beginning, and it freaked me out. So it got me to regress back into my head. And when I did, I just started treating it like a computer. I started creating programs for myself. And my earliest were my suits and bubbles. My suits are just different versions of myself. So whenever I talk to somebody, I would actively listen to them in multiple ways to draw them inside of myself and recreate who they were as a version of me. So I was creating multiple versions of myself. And then my bubbles were just like the holodeck in the Star Trek universe. Could be anytime, any place, anywhere in the world. What I didn't realize at that age was I was creating a proving ground for myself to have to basically take any version of myself, put it in these scenarios before I actually stepped into a moment and imagine those moments beforehand to see how many different directions they can go. I mean, it carried way through my life in multiple different ways. But once I got into acting, the most significant one was 2008 when I started doing this film, Hunger. And I realized during this film that what I learned as a child and acting tools and techniques are essentially the same thing. My suits were just different characters. My bubbles were versions of Stanislavski's Magic If. So that let me know that these tools and techniques were teachable. There's a system out there that can teach people to do these things. I came in on my own, but that's crazy to ask everyone. It's like if if nobody could read and we started telling people in order to learn how to read, you got to find a coach or a tutor or somebody. That'd be crazy. It's like we put it in the school system because it's so poignant. We need everybody to know it. And that's kind of where I'm at with that because when we gave the world written literacy in reading and writing, it changed the world. When we gave the world numerical literacy in the form of mathematics, it changed the world. I'm just arguing, well, if we give the world mental and emotional literacy, why wouldn't it change the world? And when I say mental and emotional literacy, what I'm talking about is how to understand how our mind and emotions work. Like I said, if we're teaching actors how to use real emotions in imaginary circumstances, why aren't we teaching everyone else? Why aren't we teaching these tools and techniques to elementary school kids before they hit adolescence and they explode into emotions? Teach them emotional regulations before that. Communication in relationships. Women complain all about the time about men not having empathy and communications. Well, we teach multiple forms of empathy and communication and acting skills. And getting to this gentleman named Konstantin Stanislavski, I just want to lay out one system. It's called the Stanislavski system. It's 7 questions. The point of these questions is for the actor to ground his character truthfully in the moment. Well, I'm saying it's like in life, we talk about it all the time. In sports, it's like you got to, work hard to build your character. Don't lie, it'll affect your character. Well, I'm saying these 7 questions are life questions that will affect your personal character. And here they are, real quick. Number one, who am I? This is the moment in relation to you. Number two, where am I? This is the moment in relation to the environment. Number three, when is it? This is the moment in relation to time. Number four, what do I want? This is the moment in relation to purpose. Number five, why do I want it? This is the moment in relation to desire. Number six, how do I get it? This is the moment in relation to action. And number seven, what's in my way? This is the moment in relation to obstacles. This is kind of like gaining situational awareness. Like a submarine can't see nothing in the water, it's in the dark. So, how does it see? It uses sonar. It sends out a ping. That ping bounces off things and it brings back information. That's what these 7 questions do. You ask it anytime you enter in a situation or a circumstance, you fire off these questions and it's going to bring back information to allow you to make better choices in the moment of your life. So, it's giving you something. And then again, with emotions, you got to see them. To me, emotions are flavored energy. That's all they are. It's the energy that moves us, and the different types of a moment taste differently depending on how you feel. Now, it's like going to the gym. You have to use those emotions as an actor. You use it in scene work. There's different things that allow us to play with them. But the more you play with them, the more you get attuned to them, the more you can use them. So now you're gaining emotional regulation. And that's what I'm saying about mental and emotional literacy. We have tools and techniques that can teach us how to use it. It's kind of like right now, we understand the human brain to be the most powerful supercomputer known to mankind. Well, what's the operating system we give human beings for that supercomputer? What's the Windows 11, the Linux, Red Hat, the iOS? What allows us to interface this supercomputer so we're not writing line code? I'm saying these acting masters accidentally wrote that code or that operating system. Because if you look at what artists work with, like metal workers work with metal, glass workers work with glass, musicians with composition and instruments. Well, what does an actor work with? What's our marble we chisel? It's the human mind and emotions. Well, here's the rub. We don't have a mind and emotions for the stage and one for real life. So these acting masters created the hammers, the chisels, the polishers to shape the human mind and emotions. And I'm saying we need to give these tools to everybody. This is how we build ourselves, how we self actualize, self efficacy, how we build ourselves and complete ourselves as human beings, but for the imaginative. And I'm just saying, well, they're just tools. It's kind of like if I got a toy Tonka truck and I got a screwdriver and I'm unscrewing a panel and my buddy walks up, he's like, man, I can't get this panel off my Ford F-150. And I hand him the screwdriver. He's like, why would I want that? That's what you use on toys. That's the same mentality we're taking with acting tools. Whenever I bring it up, it's like, people, we don't need acting tools. This is life. No, brother, we're on a stage every day. We're in different roles every day. These acting tools will teach us how to move across the stage of life with grace, in a way we can be content about at the end of every day. I lived a good day because I knew the actions. It's kind of like if you don't have written literacy and someone hands you a contract, how do you know what's in that book? Well, right now, the 1%, politicians, corporations, the ruling class, they spend billions upon billions of dollars every year to understand how human beings, the general populace, thinks and behave so they can influence how we vote, how we purchase, and stuff like that. So, how do you know how many influences out there are manipulating you if you don't have mental and emotional literacy? Once we gain this as a populace, we negate all that work because it's like being able to read a contract. Well, if you hand me a contract and I can read, I know if you're trying to screw me or not. Well, if they're out here trying to manipulate our emotions and we all have mental literacy, we could see them doing it. That's the importance of this. It's not something that is, well, I mean, it's not common knowledge yet. It's not something we talk about because it doesn't really exist yet. It's just something that's on the fringes. And I feel like it's been overlooked because, honest to God, who looks to the theater kids for world changing knowledge? And that's essentially the situation we're in. We have this world changing knowledge, but it's not in psychology, it's not in the academia, it's sitting with the theater kids. So we got to get over the fact that, yeah, they're theater kids, but they have some profound knowledge sitting over there and it could change the world.
I really feel like there's actually kind of two sides of that coin
Hmm.
because you mentioned the idea of how we got away from that. And where that came was we all at a very young age learned to distract ourselves. One of the places that we go for distraction is movies and TV shows. And we look at it for that. We're not really adapted to taking a deeper look into the motivation behind what created those things. That's where us as creators get this beautiful space to question all those things and to really look at the motivating factors behind it, but apply our language to it because we all speak a different variety within that core language. And, in my case, those 7 questions that you mentioned, those are great fundamental techniques for grounding, bringing yourself present, and helping you to digest the situation. As opposed to when you see him on the screen, you look at it and you see this guy going through these things and he's realizing that's the arc of the story and he's got to push through it. We're kind of taking that a little bit, but then again, we're kind of just looking at it as if it's popcorn in our hands for the feed the moment.
Well, it's two different things too. It's kind of like you're saying, two different parts of the coin because that's why I want to remove it from entertainment. Because here's the problem we have with entertainment. A lot of, I'd say the vast majority of actors don't even know the stuff like this exists because there's no bar of entry. You just get in, memorize your lines. Like Spencer Tracy said, memorize your lines, don't bump in the furniture, and you're fine. But it's deeper than that. More than that, you also have the entertainment industry that has been dumbing down our books, reading, and education because it's easier to dumb it down than it is to spend the money and create something of artistic value. And it's when you create artistic value that gives to the people around you. It gives something more. It's kind of like when you see those memes of the McDonald's, how it looked in the 80s versus now, where it was all colorful and playful in the 80s, but now it's all gray and, uniform. It's just to save money, but at the same time, it's cheating life because you're not having the same life experience in this gray, dull version than you are in a colorful experienced or a colorful childhood experience you had way back when. So all I'm getting to the point is once we remove it from entertainment, we remove that negative influence of how do we make money off of it. That's why I think we pull it out of there, put it in education. That way, it's purely about how do we grow ourselves as people, because that's all this is about. It's about using these tools in a way that can make us more robust as human beings, developing our emotions. It's kind of like that mentality of I want to be my best self. I'm going to work hard and be my best self. I think that's not a correct mentality because there's no version of you, no matter how good you make it, that is going to fit into every different environment. That's why I like what I've done because I've developed myself in such a way that I've created a wardrobe of selves. So now, whenever I step into the environment, I can change me and pick the best version of me to fit the environment instead of trying to fit the environment to match my best self. So it's putting the control where it should be. I don't need to control the environment. I need to control me. And this is the difference, what I'm saying, because a lot of people must understand it, because it's the difference between doing the work and being a mask. Like psychopaths, sociopaths, they're the ones that pretend. They put on these fake faces, they use fake emotions they don't really understand. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about taking a real hard look at yourself internally, finding different people of different kinds of people inside yourself. And this will also create empathy because now you're seeing other human beings through your eyes. This is the mentality of Dr. Joseph Levi Moreno back in the 1950s when he literally took he literally took acting techniques and put them in psychodrama, which is now psychotherapy. But he made the point that yes, talk therapy is amazing and it does help, but things change once you get your body involved. So it's different than if we're just sitting here talking about like therapeutic things versus if we got into a scene and started acting out traumas. Different things will happen once you get your body involved. So that's what I'm saying. These tools will activate different parts of us and grow us in ways that we don't even understand yet as a species. Like I said, if we put this in the school systems, we will raise the most mentally and emotionally capable generation that we have ever seen before in our history.
I'm really sitting here thinking about the difference between the talk and the actual words because it brought to mind the first time that I went to have an article published. This business magazine reached out to me and I wrote this beautiful story comparing life to the bear and how it's about the environment and the fact that, when you get to a mountain, it's not about, I can't climb it because I didn't bring the rope. It's about going out and crafting it. And they reached out a couple weeks later with an email and they were like, what the hell are you even talking about in here? I don't understand. And, I tried to explain it to them. And then it just so happened that we were close enough to be able to meet in the middle and actually get them on a trail. And I took them through the whole process of a 2-day hike. And that was just mind blowing because it just opened up this whole different perspective, where we're sitting at a desk and we're worried about the numbers and how we're going to make this equation add up. But then when you get out there physically and you do something, you experience it through a whole different light. And to me, that's the beauty of combining the content with the in person, getting somebody on a trail.
Absolutely, because it's something that's tangible. Because before that, it's just some abstract idea. I mean, I hear words coming out of your mouth, but there's nothing to connect them to. So, like you said, once you get them out there into that trail, into nature, now it's more divine. Because you can see colors, you can see light, you can see life. And that's not translating necessarily when you're talking because it's so much. The experience is so much more than any words we can put down. So yeah, that's a solid point. And it's like understanding that is transformative. And that's what I'm saying. We can transform as a species. We have the tools we need. We just we're not going that direction for whatever reason. We're spinning in circles.
It almost feels like we've gotten to a point where we've achieved all this different aspect of taming the world and the land to fit us. But now we're just bored.
Yeah.
It's like we've gotten to a point where do we go up any further? And in the process, we've forgotten a lot of very important things. Like I use nature as a backdrop. So when you think about getting outside and actually listening to the birds, there's a story to be told there. When I'm out on a trail and I come across a deer, there's a story to be told there if you're willing to look. And I think it's not a matter of just jumping headfirst into the pool. It's about taking little steps of progression, which is a lot of the time uncomfortable. You're stepping into an unknown territory. You feel like you don't have a sense of mastery at all. But, like I mentioned with the idea of climbing that mountain, it's not about that rope that you forgot at home. It's about looking around and crafting it. So there's a level of mastery, even in an environment or an arena that you have no idea where you're at, if you're willing to look.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm a firm believer. Everything has an art form to it. It's just people don't want to see it. They just want to get it done and move on. And it's like that's not living. That's just you're just being at that point. You're just hanging out. It's not enough. Because at the end of the day, at the end of your life, is that going to be fulfilling? Because most people generally live the same day over and over again for most of their lives. And it's like, that ain't a real way to live, sitting in a cubicle, punching computers, clocking in, clocking out. Is that all your life is? It's like there's a lot more to experience, to take in. And the more you take in, the more you grow as a human being. And the more you grow, the more you have to offer. So once we start growing and developing people, they're going to start giving back. I mean, granted, yeah, there's going to be the percentage that takes and takes, but that's always the way it is. I refer to it as the law of averages since a kid. It's not a law, just something observation I made up. But it's like any group of people I've ever met, doesn't matter demographic, whatever, they generally break up into three groups. Uh, 20% of them are good, 20% of them are bad, and 60% of them are common. And it's kind of like if a building's on fire, the person running in to save somebody is good. The person holding the match is bad. The person holding their phone videotaping it, that common. Because it's like that Edmund Burke quote said that the only thing for evil to persist is good men to do nothing. I don't like that quote. I feel like that's a quote where common men try to elevate themselves to good. Because to me, good and evil, anytime they're like polar opposites of a magnet. Whenever they're in around, they have to interact. It's common people that can choose not to interact. It's common people that can choose to be bystanders and say, I'm not going to do anything. I'm burying my head in the sand. And that's the vast majority of people. And it's because we haven't done it. We've instead of developing them, we've regressed them. We've built a society where we send people through the same education system, essentially building the same person. It's like if we really cared about education, we'd be like, when we started breaking up classrooms, like, okay, those 30 kids over there, they're all practical learners. Put them with a practical teacher. Those 30 kids, they're all, audio learners. Put them with audio teacher. Find out how our kids learn. Break them up by that and put them with teachers that teach that way. That's a way it was much more receptive because I was a terrible student. I was a great learner. I just didn't learn via the means that the school system taught me. So that was a disadvantage that I had. Sorry, I don't know. My camera keeps falling down.
Oh,
But
it's all right.
it's a disadvantage that I had that it's like we're putting all kids through. Again, it's like with the emotional regulation in adolescence. We could seriously help every future generation of our children by just giving them these tools, but we're not doing it yet. I guess because we just don't know about it. That's what I said. It frustrates me because it's like I ain't the hero this idea needs. I'm the hobo it has. I wish there was someone more influential, someone smarter than me, because I recognize how important this is. I'm a schmuck. I don't know what to do with it. So that's why I wrote a book about it, didn't do anything. I put it to the school systems and it worked. I mean, teachers were blown. I'm a high school dropout. I have no teaching experience other than, I mean, I wasn't an acting teacher. I just came across this stuff and I started teaching it to these kids in the school system. It was 4 classes, 15 hours a week. Teachers were blown away because kids who were just completely introverted in front of the stage, just belting out scenes. I mean, completely transformed. And I didn't do anything other than just show them the tools. They did it. And it was just about letting them open themselves up instead of me trying to open them up. And like, but the problem was they weren't paying me. But I did so good that year that the superintendent of the school system called me up the next year. He's like, we want you back. We want to give you 2 more schools, 4 more classes, but we can't pay you. And I was at that point, I'm like, I can't, man. I gave you 15 hours a week for an entire school year, 4 classes over like 3 different schools. It's like I can't do it for free. So that's when I got out, and that's when I wrote the book. So I got a book out there, but again, didn't do much. And then that's when started to do the podcast interviews, which is good because it wasn't until, like I said, came across this idea in 2008, but I didn't realize what I actually was holding was mental and emotional literacy till like 2 months ago because I didn't have anybody to talk to about it. None of my friends and family cared about it, and I couldn't find an outlet. So once I started podcasting and talking about this, it didn't take like but 3 to 5 episodes. Like, holy crap, this is mental and emotional literacy. And it was just being asked the right questions that made me realize it.
And I think that's actually an important part of the journey is that adversity, because that's what shapes and hones that message. I can relate 110% to that. When I first started, I really had no idea what I was doing outside the fact that I had to have this presence on social media to appease this hunting group. And, you know, through the process of adversity, I ended up going my own way. And now here I find myself not only doing things that personally I never imagined I do because of some of the obstacles I've had in my life, but also with that lack of knowledge I started with, never imagining that I'd be able to get to where this is now like a full-time career where the podcast is going and, growing and growing and growing day in and day out. Then there's the book. Now there's in-person classes and events and one-on-one sessions and all this other stuff that it may have been a pipe dream, but I had no idea how to build that narrative around it. It was just a matter of putting in the work, which is
Yeah.
where a lot of us come up to that, again, mountain reference, and we just say we can't do it. We're going to just sit right here in the valley. And we always look up at that peak of that mountain and we go, dude, I wonder what was up there. Is it as beautiful as what I imagined, or is it better? And then we hit a stage in life where, like, okay, I wish I could go back and do it now. Because here in the valley, I've got this whole life built, and it's going to take too much to put it on my back and try to climb it now. But having that willingness and that understanding that time you spent in the valley is actually where you crafted everything because that was the knife of adversity. You can still grab all that stuff up and go.
Yeah, that's what I agree with that 100% too. And I had a situation like that that I can relate to. 2007-ish, I was living in Manhattan and I was doing the acting thing up there. And one thing that blew people away was I wrote and produced and performed my own play. But it's not that I did it, it was how fast I did it. From the moment I wrote the first line of the play till we closed on closing night, like 5 months had passed. And again, in some places that wouldn't be phenomenal, but for me, it's because I shouldn't have known how to do it. I was never taught how. But it was one of those situations where I never looked up because I wasn't looking at the mountain, so to speak. I was looking down at what I was doing. So all I focused on was the next step, the next step, the next step. And even when I tripped, I got up and focused on the next step. And it got me to the end of the ride. And it was one of those things where I was never able to see the adversity. I was never able to see like the boundaries. I didn't have any limitations put on me because I didn't know what I was doing. So it's nothing for me to say, wow, this is something profound that I shouldn't be able to accomplish so easy. To where it was, my Marine mindset was just, what's the next move? Rush the assault, advance. And that's all I did. And I accomplished it so quick. But it's one of those things where it's like they say that most problems we have are just illusions we create. Well, systems like this will negate those illusions because one thing that I've learned in my life, it's like how many people who don't ask themselves, what do I want? How do I get it? It's like these are life questions that they're failing to ask. If they would ask them, it would help them, not be so afraid of the mountain because now they have something, some kind of direction to go, like an azimuth, it's giving them this direction. Once I have these questions, now I know where to go to that next step. And the problem, I think, is that too many people aren't asking questions. It's kind of like it was hand in hand with the idea of fake news. The whole concept of fake news. I read it all the time just to see through it. But there's something that I've noticed. There's pretty much no piece of fake news that I've ever seen that would stand up to the scrutiny of a high school research paper that I was taught. So that means the only reason that fake news is so prevalent is because tens of millions of Americans either cannot or will not do high school level work. That's a problem. We need to bolster up our critical thinking. And by gaining mental and emotional literacy, that's how we'll do it. That's the answer that we need. I believe that's the answer that we need right now because we're saying, what do we do as a people? We seem lost. Well, we don't have a direction because we don't ask ourselves these things. Once we start as a national body asking these things, we negate what our political leaders are doing. And like, this isn't left or right. It's both sides. Because I'm a firm believer that the left and right are connected to the same body, corporate America. Both sides are screwing the people. So if the people want to get out of this thing where the rich are taking everything, we need to gain this literacy so we can see that we're being manipulated. Because both sides, millionaires, are manipulating us. It's crazy that we're not seeing it yet. But again, who taught us? And they're the ones spending billions of dollars, so we can't see it. They're trying to put blinders on us.
And that's where the autonomy in life comes in. You mentioned about how a lot of the times there's no questions that we ever ask ourselves. And I believe that's because as we grow up, we kind of find ourselves fitting into this mold that's already predetermined. And again, that's the comfort, that's the safety blanket. When you step outside of that, you actually put the responsibility within your own hands. When you start thinking outside the box, you ask yourself questions and you start blazing your own trail. Who knows what's over that horizon? And we're afraid of failure. And, I think about this in the aspect of my current position where I just got diagnosed with diabetes. I went through pretty traumatic experience in the hospital as I found out. And in the weeks following up to today, I still find myself facing that same fear where it's like all these millions of choices I got to make each day. I put it up against that trauma of that event, that fear of the event. Like, hey, is this going to lead me right back to that hospital gurney? And, it can be something as minute and small as not allowing myself a cup of coffee, something that I've always really, truly enjoyed. And when we sit in that barrier of fear, we really prevent ourselves from enjoying life. It's about taking the autonomy to actually realize those thoughts that fear is based in is a hypothesis. And if we question that hypothesis, we're going to find an answer that works for us. It's going to lead us down those trails. It's going to take us where we're happy, where we have joy, where we actually experience and enjoy life.
Absolutely. And to add on to that, I would say that something people don't think about enough is fear is an emotion. If it's an emotion, it's an energy. That means we can govern where it goes. The problem we have is that with most emotions, especially as men, we're taught to bottle them down. You push them down. If you got that fear, you push it down. Well, all that does is allows it to grow and level up and get stronger. So that fear, whatever these emotions are, will grow up to level 50 while we're still emotionally on level 5. So we can't match them. So we have to bottle them because if they don't, then they explode and pour out over everything and destroy relationships. Where if we gain this emotional regulation and we start leveling up our own emotions like we should, because there are emotions. And that's another thing too. Emotions aren't masculine or feminine. They're just human. The entire emotional body should be ours to govern and use. So once we start doing this and growing them, those emotional fears won't be a problem because yeah, it's at level 50, but so are you. So now you're on the same level and you can handle it because you've been, it's like again, going to the gym. You can't go in there and just start blasting, 300 pounds. You got to start low and build yourself up. But once you build yourself up, you can throw 300 pounds around like it's easy. It's the same principle. Once we start working any things, we master the fear because we master the emotional energy. It's just we haven't been taught yet.
That's where mindfulness and meditation really come in. What I do with my work is I do a lot of fact-based, you know, information throughout the journey, and that's personalized to meet, the individual wherever they're at. So if we get on a trail and it's a simple 1 mile hike, at the end of that marker, we can look back and say, look at what you just accomplished. You take that into your daily life, and guess what? You're starting to strengthen those muscles. You're strengthening that confidence within you, which
Mm,
is really what it's all about. If you're going to be present if you're going to take that autonomy and that ownership of life, it's about having the confidence to not only ask the questions, find the answers,
Yep.
and really distill the results down to the pieces that are truly going to sharpen the stone or sharpen the knife for you as you continue to cut the trail.
Absolutely, 100%. And it is that follow through, because it's not enough to gain the knowledge, but you got to distill it. You got to work through it, because if you don't, then you don't understand it. You're just, because like I said, it's like I had this knowledge for 20 years and I didn't realize it because I didn't have the problem. I didn't have tools to distill it, but once I did and I realized what it was, it made it a lot more profound. And the same thing happened in everyday lives. Who knows the stuff we overlook because we're not really just taking the time to reflect on our daily lives. We're just running through it and missing these magical moments that would transform us as beings. It's just we're not there yet. Once we get there, once we evolve, and like I said, it exists in small pockets. Like what you're saying is totally valid. It's that's emotional regulation in its own right. And there's a lot of different places where you'll find that because we're human beings and so many of the things we do is mental and emotional. So it's absolutely going to pour out in any way. My thing with this is just it's so concentrated in acting because of what the material substance that actors work with, the mind and emotions. That's no other art. I mean, all arts use it in some respect, but none of them use it so profoundly as actors do because we have to. We have to be completely different human beings to live truthfully in the moment. And that's what we have to do sometimes. We do it all the time. It's like we refer to it. Have you ever heard of code switching?
Yes.
This is basically hyper code switching because we do it. We go into a different environment. We change who we are. I just realized what it was. It was my cat. Sorry about that. He was pulling when he's walking past me, he keeps pulling the cable down. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
But yeah, it's just getting in there and doing that work and just developing your mindset. It'll transform us all. And that's what I'm saying. It's like it's so concentrated in the acting world. It's overlooked.
No, it absolutely is. And, it goes the same with life, is the idea of sharpening that stone consciously, being present and actually going through the motion of pushing that stone back and forth up and down the blade is something that a lot of us overlook, we take for granted. And when you slow down, you become more present. That's where you find the vocabulary to build these skills because you're taking the time to initiate and actively change the way that you're talking to yourself, the way that you're describing the world around you. And it gets back to just simply the idea of, as I coin it, rewilding yourself,
Yeah.
getting back to the freedom. Because when you get back to the freedom, you get to live. You actually choose the adventure, as opposed to when you're tame, you're just given and you're taking what's handed to you. And that's what the initiative is here, is to go out and take life by the reins, find the understandings, look for those lessons, those things that are all around you that it just takes a split second to look at. And then you get to hold that up for review, sharpen that, craft it into the next tool that's going to help you further your camp. And ultimately, what we're getting at is it's a tool that gets you out of living in survival mode. When you think about being in a situation where you have to survive, each little piece that of the puzzle that you can put together puts the odds in your hands a lot better. And it also makes it more comfortable. So as you build that shelter, you've got a place to sleep. You got a place to get out of the elements. Now you can look for the resources to build a fire. You build the fire, you can clean water. You can start to look for something to eat, and you got a place to cook it. And it helps you survive. It helps you to stay alive and feel a little bit more comfortable while you wait for rescue, if that's what the plan is. And, this is how we transition back and forth. We take the visuals and the scenarios that we do in the field and we bring them back into life. We look at how they can actually correlate. And then we do the same with life. We look at those things that we do on a daily basis, take it out in the field, put it up to the test, see if it truly helps, see if it works. If not, we go back to the drawing board. A failure isn't the end. A failure is an opportunity to try again.
Absolutely, I agree with that, and I agree with the whole rewiring thing because what you said is a great metaphor for just life and whatnot. Because we're all programmed. We're programmed from birth, culture, society, parents, religion, all of that stuff. Programs in who we need to be. They're not trying to find out who we are as an individual. So we're all programmed to go down this same path that doesn't fit for the vast majority of us. So if we take the time to understand ourselves, slow down, meditate, and rewire ourselves, reprogram ourselves for who we are supposed to be to find our own personal destiny, not only will it change who we are, but it will fulfill us. It'll make our life much better to live because we're one of that feeling we're living someone else's life. Now you're living your own life, like you're saying, you're taking the time, get in there, get dirty, get gritty, and figure out what's really going on here. And then once you do that, it changes everything. It makes it easier. It reminds me of that old Robin Williams movie, Good Will Hunting, where that one kid who wanted to be the actor, and his dad is like, "No, it's not going to happen." Blah blah blah. But it's like we do that so much in life. It's another example. It's like going down that road. I remember growing up as a kid, and it was always think, got to be a doctor, got to be a lawyer, got to be a doctor. That's where the money is. Got to be a doctor and lawyer. But now, fast forward, look at the fields of medical and legal. We pump them full of people who don't care about the law and medicine. They care about money. And it's reflected. Both of them are skyrocketing fields. The ambulance chase or, skyrocketing meds. It's not about let's take care of people. It's about how much can I make for me? And we did that because we
Yeah,
didn't put people in there who cared about these things. We told them that, nope, this is where you got to go to make the money. And now we're stuck with the repercussions of those actions. And I don't think parents meant,
110%.
yeah, I don't think parents meant ill, but it's like their lack of knowledge to what they were doing destroyed those two industries.
And we face a lot of that in life. A lot of the times it's not about where we want to go, as we've been talking about a lot. It's where we get pushed into that cookie cutter syndrome. And taking the time to actually build these skills, I feel like no matter where you're at in life, they'll meet you. It's not about I've got to wait till this and that are together. It's just about sitting down and simply doing it. Because the meditation, the aspects of nature, the aspects of life in general will meet you exactly where you are. And if you listen to the stories, you listen to the songs, you'll find your way. You'll find the ability to get to where it is that your heart truly desires to be.
Absolutely. But again, it's like you said, you got to get there. You got to do the work because it's not going to meet you unless you meet it halfway. There's a lot of people are waiting for like a lottery ticket, waiting for life to just show up at their door. It's like, no, you got to do the work and meet it out there too.
Exactly. Hey, as we come to the end of this, you got to let people know how to get in touch with you, what you got going on, coming up, all that good stuff.
Absolutely. I do have a book out. It's called All Your Best Selves. You can get it on Amazon. It's digital or paperback. My website is www.tbcenterprises.com. That's TBC like Tango Bravo Charlie. You can catch me on there. I put my podcasts on there. I got videos going on. I'm working on a lot of little projects. It's just different art projects and whatnot. But again, it's me trying to promote this idea as well. And on social media, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Blue Sky under the name Soy Candy, SoiCandie.
Awesome. James, thank you so much. It's been a blast, my friend. Looking forward to do it again sometime.
Awesome. Awesome.